Hey everyone, Happy New Year.
Hello, everybody.
It's February.
I have butterflies in my stomach.
I don't really have butterflies. I feel very relaxed. I just need to make sure I'm in focus. You're always in better focus than me, and your head is always a lot smaller. But if you were to put your head right next to mine, it is. My head is bigger, but that's why if I were to back up more, it would look better.
So we usually go live on our Facebook group. We do it every week, but
Mm-hmm.
we don't go live as often here on our channel. So we decided today to record our podcast episode and go live on our YouTube channel at the same time.
Yes.
And we're
Yes.
here.
And we're here.
We're here, and hopefully, we're part of your lunch break or wherever you are.
And if you're here, say hi. How's it going? It looks like we have 3 watching right now. So what's going on? Say hi.
Say hi.
We're here to hang out.
Yeah, so we are going to talk to you guys for a little bit and interact with you for a little bit before we start recording our podcast.
Yeah.
When we start recording our podcast and we record our podcast, we may take breaks to see how you guys are doing, and then at the end we proceed with some Q&A or something.
Yeah, so
anything that you want to do,
any questions that you might have. The presentation and kind of the focus of what we're going to talk about today is podcast workflow. And this, Veronica just put out a video. Was it yesterday? Yesterday, all about 10xing your podcast growth and how you can 10x your podcast growth by just looking at your workflow, improving your workflow, and incorporating all sorts of repurposing tips and tricks and techniques that we're going to be talking about today. So if you have any questions about that, here we go.
Hello,
so I'm doing a live. How's it going? And we have love your channel. Very informative. Thank you. Hey, Morena, how's it going, you guys? It looks like this is working pretty well here on StreamYard, that I can actually make your comments pop up.
That's so cool.
That's so fancy.
Hi, Ariel.
Hey, Ariel, how's it going? We got a few more people that popped in. Say hi. Tell us what part of the world are you guys tuning in from today? Love from India.
Oh, love you guys.
Hey, Vlog Vigu, if I pronounced that right.
We have a lot of friends in India.
Yeah, we've got a lot of friends in India. We've even
a lot of Potskis.
I don't know if you know, but we have tried at least our best to translate some of our videos into Hindi too. So I'm launching.
Oh, hey, so I'm launching in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, and in Chicago. Ooh, congratulations! Make sure you let us know when you launch, and we'll give your podcast some love. We'll go listen to it, maybe even give you some feedback. Hey guys, thank you for all your videos. I'm from Nigeria. Oh, awesome.
Oh, hi.
What time is it in Nigeria? Well, cool. We've got some good people, a good amount of people here. This is going to be really fun. So everyone who's hanging out, we've got Ariel that's launching in 2 weeks, but is everyone else here? Do you have a podcast already? Because this is helpful whether you have a podcast or whether you don't have a podcast. And we're just going to kind of get into how you can repurpose and how you can maximize the time you have when you're podcasting.
Yes.
And actually, we're kind of doing it right now. So to show you, I'm going to share my screen.
Work smarter, not harder.
So right now, if I share my screen, I've got Reaper, which has kind of become my go-to DAW or digital audio workstation for podcasting and for editing podcasts. And I especially love it for going live because it has a really low CPU usage. So it's not really bogging down my computer while we're going live too. So now what I'm going to do in Reaper is So
to explain a little bit better, we have your laptop here.
Yeah, we have my laptop right here. And then on my laptop, we have a camera, a Sony camera going through a cam link that allows it to hook up to USB through my computer. And that allows us to have a nice camera to go live with. And then we have these podcast microphones going into a audio interface. And then the audio interface is also plugged in through USB to the computer. And then that's why you see these volume levels here going into my computer in Reaper. Oh, and hopefully that's not sharing the volume of Reaper, or that could be trippy sounding for you guys. But here, what we do now is I'm going to press record on Reaper. Command R is the quick key for that. And now you can see we're recording. And so we're all ready to record our podcast. And now I can just kind of forget about Reaper and Reaper is very reliable, so I know it's sitting there in the background recording our podcast. And now we can interact with you guys. We can answer questions. We can show up for our audience at the same time we record our podcast.
Yeah. And for those of you who are new to Reaper, have no idea, could you tell them about your mini course?
The Reaper course, yeah. Oh, look, I just wanted to say hi to Dr. Ogby. Hopefully I pronounced that right. How's it going?
Hello.
It's 9:30 p.m. in Nigeria right now. Well, that's not too bad. That's
Ooh.
just about 8 hours ahead of
Mhm.
us. I just need an interface system. I have a snowball mic and studio headphones. That's great. I like those snowball mics.
Mhm.
Um, luxury royalty. I'm Nigerian too. Congratulations. Great.
Oh.
So Veronica mentioned Reaper for podcasters. That's
Mhm.
an online course I just put together. It's really very quick. It's actually only 3 hours of video lessons, and it will get you up and running to where you can be like a pro at podcast editing. And
Mhm.
also, you get lifetime membership to it. And there's a tech library that I'm periodically post videos to about like more advanced editing stuff. So it doesn't have to be in the main course, but yeah. So yeah, that's good. So yeah, but
Mhm.
basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of attempt at least to be guinea
Here we
pigs,
go.
and we're gonna kind of record our podcast. So far, and actually, yeah. And so what we'll do is we'll do the intro piece to our podcast, but we're gonna stop quickly answer questions, go throughout this, and then when we're done with our podcast episode, we can answer more questions
Mhm.
too. So if you have any questions, please put them in the comments and we'll make sure to
We'll
get
get
to
to
them.
those.
We'll get to them
Mhm.
for sure. And let me just pull up my notes real quick here. Um, there, okay.
I
Awesome.
airdropped you the.
Yeah, I think they're my docs. Here we go.
Okay.
Sweet. And we're ready to go.
Okay. Hello and welcome to the Pod Sound School podcast, the podcast that aims to help you improve your podcast and get into the lifestyle and struggles of podcasters. This is your host, Veronica, and here with me is my sidekick, Studio Steve.
Studio Steve. How's it going, everyone?
I am the social media branding and content strategies for the Pod Sound School.
And I am the producer and the creative director, and we're here to help you make something big with your podcast.
We'll be showing you the skills and tools you need to make something big with your podcast. In this episode, we'll be talking about ways that you can maximize your podcast and get more out of your podcast creation, aka podcast workflow.
Yes, podcast workflow. This is something we get asked about a lot,
Mhm.
which is how can I maximize my workflow? How can I get more out of my efforts that I put towards podcasting? And it's something that we're constantly talking about too,
Mhm.
because we all know that it takes a long time to research, to come up with the ideas. If you really want to 10x your podcast, then doing keyword research and everything else like that, all that work you do before you get in front of the microphone to make a podcast episode, and then and then it takes what, like 3 hours to edit it.
Mhm.
If you're really going to put a lot of editing into your podcast episode, and then what, you have to promote it on social
You
media,
have
you
to
have
promote
to
it on social
try to get people
media.
to come over to listen to it, bring
Mhm.
people onto the podcast players. So yes, like Veronica said, in this episode we're going to share with you, what is it, 4 tips?
Yes. But before we move on, before we get into the meat and potatoes or into the rice and beans, whatever, we are going to ask you to share this episode on your social media and tag us. We love to make connections. We love to learn more about you and your projects and your podcast. So make sure that you tag us. You
Mhm.
can find me or Studio Steve on Twitter and Instagram at Pod Sound School.
Yep.
So come and say hi on our social media and follow us there too. We share a lot of stuff on our social media for podcasters
Uh-huh.
and YouTubers too.
Yeah, and if you didn't know, we also have a YouTube channel where we have a ton of really helpful stuff, and we're
Mm-hmm.
actually live right now on YouTube
Mm-hmm.
as we're recording this podcast episode. And what we did is we hopped in and we said hi to the people that are watching there and our fans there. How's it going, guys? Our
Hello.
audience. And then we sort of talked with them for a minute first, and then popped into our podcast episode. And we might periodically, while recording this podcast episode, also stop and answer questions.
Mm-hmm.
And then definitely at the end of the podcast episode, we'll answer some questions too. So that right there is just, trying to show an example in the way that we're doing this, a way that you can already repurpose and get more out of your podcast
Mm-hmm.
efforts. by doing more than
Yes.
one thing at once. Yeah.
Yeah, because we get it. As an indie podcasters, we have to wear many hats. We have to do the research for our episodes. We have to find our guests. We
Hmm.
have to schedule our guests. Then we have to record our podcast, edit our podcast, and make sure that we're active on social media, promoting our podcast, bringing people to listen to our podcast. So that's the reason why we wanted to record this episode and to go live on our YouTube channel so we can give you some ideas of how you can maximize the time that you spend recording that podcast episode and just juice it out. Juice it out. Just get the
Get the juice out.
get the juice out. Just how do you squeeze that baby? Squeeze that baby.
Squeeze the baby.
So imagine being able to be on different platforms with only one piece of content
Hmm.
without adding more time to your workflow. Don't you think that sounds great? I think it sounds amazing. And it took us a while for us to realize that we could do that, to put
Uh-huh.
that in our minds that, okay, I can be recording this tutorial for a client and at the same time having b-roll for our next YouTube video.
Yeah, or even
So
making a YouTube video out of it.
so it requires a mindset shift a little bit. So that's why we're here
Hmm.
to create that mindset shift for you.
Yeah, and is it four? So we're going to talk about four different tips, four
Hmm.
different best practices that will get you started, get you moving in the right direction.
Hmm.
And so why don't we start with number one?
Yeah, let's do number one.
Okay, first, ask yourself, what does my ideal listener type into Google?
Hmm.
Um, so what do you think?
So this is very important, and sometimes it seems like a very abstract concept if you are just starting your podcast. If you are creating your podcast, if you're new to content creation, it's like, what do you mean? Like, why do I need to know what people are searching for on Google? Like, well, I don't really need to know that,
Hmm.
or why do I know that? But if you're already familiar with SEO and this isn't your first rodeo with content creation, you may be like, yes, Veronica, of course. Like, yeah, of course, I want to know what my audience wants from me.
Hmm.
But for those of you who are new, I think it's very important. Not, I think, I'm positive, I'm 100% sure that if you do your research, if you find out what your audience, your target audience, is looking for, is searching for on Google or other search engines like YouTube, and there are different tools that you can use for that.
Hmm.
That if you know what they're searching for, that you can incorporate those things that they're searching for into your workflow,
Hmm.
into your creative process. And as you wave those in, then people will find you
Yeah.
because by the magic of SEO and keywords.
Yeah, I love that. So you can kind of cater your content or tweak your content, tweak your podcast episodes to match the keywords that you found in doing
Mhm.
your keyword research.
Mhm.
And Veronica mentioned there's tools for that. A free tool that's really Google Chrome extension. It's called Keyword Surfer. I'd highly recommend that. That just shows you can type anything into Google and it will show you how often that's searched every month, and then also give you some suggested other keywords that are similar to that one that are searched. So it's just a good idea to know what people are searching for and to see if your expertise and your topic of your show is one that could answer those questions or
Mhm.
could provide the comedy or the entertainment or whatever it is that they're looking for when they're searching for those things.
Mhm.
This is huge. And I think it's just part of our journey as podcasters to go from making our show all about us and all about ourselves
Mhm.
to moving to making it for the audience and constantly adapting and improving to make it for an audience. So,
Yes. So we have a video about SEO for podcasting,
mhm.
and we also have a podcast episode talking about SEO. But could you tell us? Okay, we have that. We did our research, let's say,
Yes.
and we have a list of keywords that we found either using Keyword Explorer or a Keyword Surfer. Is that
Keyword
what you said?
surfer. Yep.
What do you do with those keywords?
So once you have those keywords, and then Keyword Explorer is a tool inside of TubeBuddy,
Hmm.
which is what you can
So
use.
that will be for your videos.
Yeah, and you can use that on. It's a Google and all, and it's on YouTube. So If you don't have TubeBuddy, definitely download that. They have a free option. And then if your YouTube channel has less than 1,000 subscribers, then it's only $4.50 a month for their creative tier. And that's the only tier you really ever need. And you can find the link for that in this episode's description. And we'll also drop the link in the YouTube video where we're going live at
Hmm.
the same time right now. Um, Oh, and speaking of that, I also saw that I wanted to ask you some questions. We are going to stop periodically throughout this to answer your guys' questions.
Hmm.
Totally appreciate you hanging out. And hopefully this presentation will give you some ideas about questions as well. So that's kind of our idea with
Yeah.
this, right? So your question was, to get back to it, is what do you do with those keywords?
Hmm.
So you've compiled hopefully a spreadsheet, and we like to use Google Sheets for that, or any Microsoft Excel. And you just put a spreadsheet of all these keywords, how many times people are searching for them a month. And on YouTube, if you're looking specifically for your YouTube channel, TubeBuddy will also show you whether or not your channel can rank for that. So you can also put that score down too.
Hmm.
And then you just get these really cool keywords. There's a few different things you can do with them. First, you can incorporate those into the titles of your episodes.
Hmm.
That's the most important thing you could do with them. Also, if you're going to be having a blog or a website, title the titles of your blog posts those keywords, because then they're more likely to pop up in search and to
Hmm.
populate in search when people look for it.
Also,
That
your show notes.
Also your show notes. The next really important place is just those first couple lines of your YouTube video description,
Hmm.
or on your podcast episodes. There's a place usually with your podcast host where you can put an episode summary and episode notes. And we get a lot of questions like, what's the difference between the episode summary and the episode notes? Well, the episode summary is only supposed to be a couple sentences,
Hmm.
and that's typically the couple sentences that people will see on the different search directories or
Hmm.
podcast directories. So in those couple sentences, you want to put in those same keywords. Now, Google and other search engines do have if they do have a way of recognizing if you're just trying to stuff keywords in there. So you want it
Hmm.
to kind of sound like it's part of your
Yeah.
natural language, but putting those keywords in there can really help. But even more than that, I think what you could do with your keywords is you can use them to choose to do topic research and to
Hmm.
choose what your episodes are going to be about. I think that's even more powerful than the SEO element. I mean, well,
Hmm.
maybe they're both equally powerful, because on YouTube specifically, let's say somebody's searching for healthy. I don't know. You're usually better at me than coming up with what's somebody searching for an example online.
uh, let's say um, let's say that somebody's searching for what products to use on curly or unruly hair,
Yeah, okay, so
like mine.
yeah, and you might be thinking to yourself, like, "Oh, man, I don't wanna do how-to videos or informational videos on YouTube.
Hmm.
I just wanna do my podcast normally, like the way it is." Well, what if you are interviewing somebody like Veronica, who has this
Hmm.
curly, unruly hair,
Oh, and I can tell you, yeah, a list of things
a
that I
list
do.
of things that she can do and tell you funny stories about it and
Hmm.
everything else, right? So that could be on today's episode. I'm going to have Veronica, who is an
Hmm.
expert in unruly, crazy, hard to manage hair.
Uh-huh.
And she's going to
Well,
tell
has
you,
experience.
or has experience, and she's going to tell you like the best hacks that are
Hmm.
going to make it look great and make it more manageable. Hopefully that makes sense, or that was a good example for you. But it's basically what's how that's going to perform really well is all of the algorithms, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Instagram or TikTok or anything, they're all built around figuring out what people like. And the more we spend time on an algorithm,
Hmm.
the more it knows us. Instagram's probably the creepiest of them all, Instagram and Facebook, and they know who your friends are. They can figure out of your followers who your friends and family are. They figure out what you like. They figure out what you're into pretty quickly. And so they're trying to populate to you or show you here on YouTube. When you first get on YouTube, you get suggested something totally different than what other people suggest. Or
Hmm.
on the podcast directories, however, where you're listening to this, the podcast directories don't really have that set up yet, but
Hmm.
they will be moving in that direction.
Yeah.
Um,
So you may be wondering, why are you talking about YouTube? Like, we're podcasters,
yeah.
right? And
Uh-huh.
it's because we're really, this year, we're making the year that we get you guys into YouTube. That's our thing for 2021. We're
Mhm.
going to get you podcasting on YouTube. And if you want to make this the year for you to start your YouTube channel, we created a podcast to video starter guide with our best tips to effectively start podcasting on YouTube.
Uh-huh.
In this guide, we cover equipment, video podcast ideas, and tips to feel confident in front of the camera. And you can grab your free copy by going to the description below
Uh-huh.
if you are here with us during this live, or going to the description of our podcast episode.
Yeah, we will after we're done, we're going
Mm-hmm.
to drop the link to that free guide. It's basically just a jump start, get you started, how you can move from audio to video.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, we put it together. We put so much love into this guide.
mhm,
We were constantly getting questions like, "How do we start? What video ideas
mhm,
you guys have for us?" or things like that. So we answer. We try to answer all the questions in this guide. So make sure you download it.
uh-huh.
It's free and it's gold.
It's gold. Yep.
Yeah.
So cool. So basically, just to sum up with the keywords point, and then we'll move on to point number two,
Mhm.
is finding those keywords is so helpful to know what your specific audience, your specific people are searching for. It will help you get inspired of what kind of episodes you can make, what kind of YouTube videos you can make,
Mhm.
and also it'll help you to sort of pivot your interviews if you happen to be an interview podcast. It's
Mhm.
really cool before you have an interview to say, what is this person an expert in? Why am I interviewing them? Why is my audience interested in them?
Mhm.
And then also to say, what keywords that I can rank for can I ask them about?
Yeah.
That's a really powerful tip that will
Mhm.
absolutely, if you instate that one tip alone, you can stop listening right now and just do that.
Yeah.
Will 10x your podcast if you do it consistently.
Definitely. And that takes us to point number two, is to write an outline or script powered by those keywords that you found with the tools that Studio Steve just mentioned.
Yeah. And
And this is super
oh,
important.
I was going to say before we do that, let's
Oh,
just hop on real quick and say hi to, or let's just respond to a
okay.
couple things. I love this right here. I literally took all my podcast starting tip from you guys. Thanks so much. That's
Oh, you're so
awesome.
sweet. We love it.
We love that. That's so cool. Uh, and this one I highlighted already, but you didn't see that. It says,
Oh,
"Love
he
your
loves
curls."
my
Uh
curls.
huh.
Yeah, I will definitely be checking out your channel.
10 million views.
Ooh, that is
Oof.
so impressive. So
Um,
good.
hey guys, brand new. I'm brand new. When and what are best approaches for beginning ads with Anchor?
Mm-hmm.
That's a cool question. We'll
Mm-hmm.
answer Tyson's question, then we'll move on to continue with our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So beginning ads with Anchor, I'm guessing you're talking about how you can monetize with the Anchor app.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that's what you're talking about. And if it's not, a lot of people have questions about that. So when you first sign up for the Anchor app, it will kind of encourage you to set up monetizing with them. And it will encourage you to put a little ad that you record at the first of your episodes. You say, heard of Anchor, the cool platform that does this, and kind of give you script and things to read. With that, I wouldn't even bother doing that until you start getting 1,000 downloads per episode. I would really advise against that because really, if you think about again your listener's experience, let's say a first-time listener stumbles across your podcast, which we're going to get into later as well, as far as like it can be hard for
Mm-hmm.
people just to find your podcast on the directories. There's things you kind of have to do. You got to get on social media. You got to bring people from outside Anchor, from outside Spotify, from outside Apple,
Mm-hmm.
to come in to listen to your podcast. But if it's a first time listener and I listen to your podcast, I go check out the first 2 or 3 sentences talking Anchor, I'm probably going to click off of it. And, listening to a podcast is a real commitment. And we don't want to have to listen to ads very much. And podcast
Mm-hmm.
listeners typically don't like ads. But once you get 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 downloads per episode, you can start reading it and Anchor
Mm-hmm.
will pay you for it. But they're
Yeah.
not going to start paying you until you get that. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of better places you could be trying to
Mhm.
make money at first than with Anchor ads.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answers your question.
And this is something that I tell to my podcast newbies, and that is to focus on growing your audience. Like,
Mhm,
do all the things that we teach you here in our channel to grow and nurture that audience and get
mhm,
to the point where just your audience is to a good size, then people will start reaching out to you, asking you to have to be a guest on your show or to advertise their products or their services.
Yep.
So make sure that your focus right now, if you're starting, is to grow your audience and just give them good episodes
Hmm.
and great content that they can binge on, and then they can um learn from whatever your podcast is about, and then
Yeah.
from there then you can start thinking about ways to monetize
Yeah, I
effectively.
love that. I think that's the most important thing, and like survey them if you can, like get in their heads, like figure out who is going to be your ideal listener, who's going to love your show the most, and ask them questions like, what kind of episodes do you want me to do? The more you can craft your podcast to to those people who you imagine are going to be your fans, the more you're going to be cruising and rocking and really speaking to a lot of people.
Hmm.
And then the monetizing will come, but there's a lot of work, there's a lot of effort, there's a lot of growth that you have to do before the monetizing comes.
Hmm.
So hopefully that was good. Hi there. How to do the editing. Okay, well, we'll talk about that more too, but how's it
Hmm.
going? Welcome. We're gonna if you're just joining, we're doing our podcast at the same time as we're doing this live, so we're gonna do separate it into a couple different spots. So now we're gonna get back to the presentation, and then we'll stop. So if you have questions, definitely leave them in here and we'll catch them after the next point. And if you've ever listened to our podcast, we have a great podcast editor, Daniela. And
Hmm.
thank you for your patience with this, Daniela. It's the first time we're doing this for you. So she's going to cut out all of the parts where we're talking to you guys.
Yeah,
Um,
hopefully.
hopefully. And also, and so that's a little extra work for her, but also she does a really good job with our sound effects and stuff. And
Hmm.
usually we give her some sound bites. So,
That is something that we recommend. If you can afford a podcast editor,
uh,
do it.
do it. Yeah.
Don't think it twice.
Yeah.
That will free so much of your time that you can spend on other things like growing your audience,
Mm-hmm.
promoting your episodes. If that's within your budget, we highly recommend it.
Yeah, or that's definitely the first thing. If you do, when you start making money from your podcast, don't put that in the bank. Just give it to a podcast editor, because that frees up that 3 hours it takes. That's how long it would take me to edit an episode, usually 2 or 3 hours. That frees that up so that you can be more efficient and spend time on social media, spend time planning more episodes, all
Hmm.
that stuff. So
Yeah.
anyway, what I like to do is I usually make Veronica do like number 2.
Number two, write the outline or script powered by those keywords.
And this is like best practices, right? So with repurposing. So
Yes.
we just talked about keywords, finding a bunch of really good keywords. So now that we have those keywords, let's write an outline or a script with those
Hmm.
keywords.
Yeah, and just to make sure that you guys because I we get a lot of resistance when we talk to our clients and our students about keywords and keyword research and how to incorporate keywords into your workflow. And because we're all creatives, and that one of the reasons why we got into podcasting was because we wanted to create something,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't want to be limited by keywords,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
That's the answer that we get from many people. But so here's the thing, you have to like make compromises a little bit, and you can incorporate your keywords in a way that's still going to allow you to be creative, that still will allow you to have that passion and creativity with your project.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can do one or two episodes with keywords that are that aim to help you grow your audience and make you give you more visibility, and then you create a podcast that has nothing to do with the keywords, just because you want that information to be delivered to your audience, or
Uh-huh.
just because you feel like talking about a subject right here in the moment and you don't want to do keyword research. That's fine, but introducing keyword research and SEO into your workflow, it's going to give you more visibility. We want to leverage the algorithms from this like massive search engines to be able to bring more eyes and more ears to our content. So
Mm-hmm.
why not doing that?
Yeah. And I love all that stuff you said. And also, basically that rebuttal that you have to people
Hmm.
saying, well, if I do keyword research and I try to make how-to videos and stuff, it's
Yeah.
going to hinder on my creativity.
Yeah, like no, I'm not gonna do that because I like more the I want to be like Larry King.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Or
And you can still be
or
like Larry
Mark
King.
Maron or
Yeah.
Joe Rogan just talks
Hmm.
randomly for 3 hours. Yeah, but the other important point with that, or the rebuttal to that, is you get to choose your keywords.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to talk about anything you still don't want to talk about. And then you also touched on like the 2 for them, 1 for me kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, or 2 for them, 1 for you. So you can do a couple that are really trying to grow your audience, really cater to what people want, and then do one, whatever you feel like doing.
Yeah.
You know,
So point number 2 is to get those keywords and put them into your outline or into your the script that you have for your podcast.
yeah.
And this is a very important step because you don't want to get in front of the microphone or in front of the camera and start recording about something that you don't feel confident about something that you're not very familiar with. If you're bringing a guest, so having that outline in your mind, having that script will give you control of the interview
Mm-hmm.
and will allow you to extract the information that you need to answer that specific question that your audience is searching for on the search engines.
Yeah.
So this is why preparation is important,
Mm-hmm.
and this is a step that you should not skip because it really it's going to make a difference in your workflow and also in the way that you prepare for your interviews and record your
Mm-hmm.
interviews, or if you do solo podcast episodes, in the way that you organize your episodes or your videos.
Yeah.
So
And it might seem a little forced at first, but eventually you'll get into the habit of it, and
mhm,
things that maybe it's kind of like when you first get on YouTube, you kind of have to get around to saying, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel,
uh-huh, yeah,
which can seem really unnatural and kind
yeah, and
of,
don't forget to like this
and
video.
hey, smash that like button, but it gets more natural. It feels more natural after a while.
It does.
And so that's what's really cool about this whole using those keywords to
Mm,
actually determine what your episodes are going to be about.
yeah.
And then some best practices with there, or a good formula that works for podcast episodes and also for YouTube videos, is to start with a hook.
Mm-hmm.
Start with something that's going to hook them in. It doesn't necessarily have to be spelled out. It could be something that sparks curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
but start with a hook. And then after the hook, you do an intro. So explain who you are, establish some credibility. Why are you specifically qualified to be presenting this information? That's
Mm-hmm.
really good for first time
Oh, why
listeners.
is your guest qualified?
Or why is your guest qualified? Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then give them an audience retention statement, which is give them a reason to stick around until the end.
Mm-hmm.
So some people call this a hook and bait. That's basically the formula. It's where it's hey, on this video today, you're going to learn this,
Mm-hmm.
and make sure you stick around till the end because I am going to share my 5th most absolute amazing secret with you. Or
And I
hey,
and I know it kind of sounds like a little dishonest. Like, what do you mean hook and bait? Like,
mm-hmm,
but basically, what you want to do is to keep your listeners or your viewers' attention until the end, because the information that you have prepared for them is
mm-hmm.
so important that you don't want them to squirrel go somewhere else. You want them to stay the whole podcast episode so they
Uh-huh.
can learn and they can apply whatever it is that you're covering.
So they could be addicted to you. So
So
you could
that's the
become
hook and
part
bait.
of so you can become part of their routine.
Hmm.
And that's what podcasting, specifically on the audio, on the podcast players, can be so powerful. People get so in have such a strong relationship with their podcast hosts, and that's something that you want to always be looking for, ways you can make your episodes more addicting and more enjoyable for your listeners.
Yes.
And with that, we can move to number 3. Let's see if we have any more questions. Excuse the podcast voice. Oh, cool. So right here we had Morena. Hey, Morena, how's it going? Hopefully you're still here.
Hello.
Would you recommend using real name for podcast? I don't quite feel comfortable using my real name. This is all new to me.
Hmm.
Um,
You don't have
you
to.
don't have to. No reason at all.
One of the what's the name of that podcast? The name of that podcaster that he's totally anonymous and he talks about um
Oh, but he uses his real name though. Is it Jack Rysdale? Rysdale, right?
writer.
Right? I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Really good
Anyway, there's a
podcast though.
podcaster,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't really know how he looks like.
Yeah, he never shows his
Oh, Jack
face.
Sider.
Jack
Sider?
Rysdale. I don't know how to
Cider?
pronounce this. Not cider. No, it's
No.
Rysdale or something.
Okay.
Really cool podcast though.
Hmm.
Anyway, but he never shows his face, so you can
No.
remain anonymous,
Hmm.
and he's been able to do
Oh,
that.
Darknet Diaries.
Yeah, the Darknet Diaries.
Yes.
Uh huh. And that's something we're always encouraging people to get their face onto camera.
Hmm.
But you can get your face onto camera and not share your real name. And if you're new to podcasting,
Or the other way around, you don't have to show your face if you don't feel comfortable.
yeah, no, not at all. It's
You do
just,
you.
yeah,
You do you, boo.
yeah. Do basically, it doesn't matter if you use your real name. It doesn't really matter if you use your face. What matters is that you just, yeah. I love that you do you. You know,
Hmm.
just be real to like what it is, the message you want to get out, the comedy you want to share, the whatever that's inspiring
Hmm.
you to want to have a podcast.
Yeah,
Just
whatever makes you comfortable.
go with it. And also all these tips that we're talking about and all these things we're talking about, you don't have to get overwhelmed by any of them.
Hmm.
You can never be prepared enough. So regardless of how prepared you are, just
Yeah.
jump into the pool, get wet, struggle to swim, struggle to come up, and then eventually you're like, oh, this makes sense. Oh, and then
Yeah.
you adapt and you change and you grow.
Yeah, and this is your journey.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to jump all in into content creation and be everywhere, and your face will be everywhere. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have to do that. As long as you keep moving forward and you know that every day you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and trying new things and being super creative and reaching out to people and building your community
Yeah.
and just allowing people to be part of your world and share all the talents that you have, then you're doing great.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And if I think a lot of times what people actually want is for you to just be your real self. And that's
Mm-hmm.
so, so being your real self and just being transparent and being who you really are is going to be very magnetic,
Mm-hmm.
to not think too much about things sometimes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It,
Um,
it helps.
it does.
It helps in front of the camera, in front of the
Hmm.
microphone, because if you create this persona that, and that's okay. I've seen a lot of people creating this persona for the
Yeah.
camera and for the
Why not?
microphone.
Lady Gaga, right?
Lady Gaga,
Yeah.
yeah.
How would you pronounce this name? Nolmans.
Gnomes.
Number, or is it
No.
number, the number
Oh, the
sign
number sign,
limps?
lumps.
Anyways, what if I'm not short on ideas and afraid that gathering data will deter me from my mission?
Yes.
Yes,
So
that's a good
that's
question.
that's what we were saying, that you need to find a balance.
Hmm.
I think, and all it all goes down to your expectations and your goals. I always say this because it's super important. If your goal says to, like, okay, I'm going to launch my podcast and I'm going to grow this thing
Hmm.
as fast as I can, or
Yeah.
I'm going to launch my YouTube channel and I want to grow it as fast as I can,
Yeah, or
then
I have a business or product that I want to sell. I want to start doing services. I want to quit my 9 to 5. And I
mhm.
think that podcasting can help me get in that
Uh,
area.
then you
That's a
have
goal.
to then you have to leverage the tools and the strategies that will help you get there,
Uh-huh.
and that is incorporating SEO.
Yeah.
Does just make it makes it so people can find you.
Yeah, and it's not just SEO, it's also what's also equally powerful is surveying people.
Hmm.
And that's like, what? How am I going to get people to fill out a survey? But you can use Google Forms, is it? To create a free survey. They have so many cool options.
Hmm.
You can make forks and stuff and just reach out to people. And on that, you don't need to reach out to people who like your grandma and your mom, because they're probably not your ideal listener. Like they wouldn't be a super fan of your show necessarily,
Hmm.
because but reach out to somebody who fits the profile of who you would imagine would be really great for your show.
Yeah.
And then with them say, hey, can you fill out these questions? And
Hmm.
it's not just about keyword research and SEO and trying to hack the algorithms. That's the way you hack the algorithms, is to give people what they want,
Hmm.
because the algorithms are designed to give people what they want.
Hmm.
So if somebody finds your podcast episode, if somebody finds your YouTube video and they enjoy it, they watch the whole thing, they give it a thumbs up, they subscribe, they follow, all that stuff,
Hmm.
that tells the algorithm, oh, this is really good stuff, I'm going to
Yeah.
show it to more people.
And not to mention that as a content creator, when you get that message from somebody, oh my gosh, I've been looking for the answer to this question and
Mm-hmm.
you just gave it to me. Thank you so much.
Yep.
It feels amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to goals and expectations, if your goal is just to be creative and start creating podcast episodes and see what where that journey will take you, then you
Mhm.
can start that way. There's not a wrong or right way to start. It depends on your goals and expectations that you have for your show and your podcast.
Yeah, I like that you finished
Hmm.
that thought. So you don't have to be pushing it so hard to quit your 9 to 5. It could just be a hobby. It could be a fun way for you to talk with friends and to
That's
get
how we
ideas out.
started.
Yeah, and that's almost a funner way,
Hmm.
and then evaluate that and be like, "Do I wanna push this and make it a business, or is that gonna take some of the fun out of it for me?"
Hmm.
I think it's super fun if you were to do that, and it does provide that opportunity. And not only that, there's a reason all these businesses are using podcasting to push their business because it's very effective too.
Hmm.
Okay, here we go. Let's answer a couple more questions, then we'll get to point number 3. Um,
Because
no,
we have a 2 o'clock.
no limits. I love that. That's how you pronounce
We
it.
have a meeting at 2 o'clock.
Oh, okay, yeah. But this is how we pronounce it. Oh, we do have a meeting at 2 o'clock.
Hmm.
Uh-oh, we get talking too much. I am I'm overwhelmed so far by Reaper, very slow going learning curve. Yeah, it can be really overwhelming, especially because it has a lot of drop down menus and things like that. I actually did a free masterclass or free online training that you can find by going to podsoundschool.com/R4P, I believe. And we'll also leave that here in the comments below. And that kind of gets you up to speed, shows you a couple basic things, but I moved pretty fast in that. Um, but I also did an online training. So if you're really determined and you want, or not an online training, online course, if you're really determined and you want to like really learn how to edit like a pro, I have a program called Reaper for podcasters. And that's, I think, actually what you go to. That's where you find the sales page for that course is R4P, podsoundschool.com/R4P. It's podsoundschool.com/training that
Hmm.
brings you to the free online training. But there's only so much I could cram in that 40 minutes. But just hang in there. There's a few tutorial videos. I'm gonna hopefully be doing some more tutorial videos here on our YouTube channel too about it. But it's a really good program to use, and I highly recommend sticking with it. And because it can do everything all the professional applications can do.
Hmm. Okay.
Okay, so should we move on?
Yeah.
Okay,
Number 3.
number
You
three.
do
Yeah,
number 3.
number three. Number three. Find a repurposing and recording workflow that works best for you.
Hmm.
Did you like that? Did that
Yeah,
work
I
out
love
okay?
that.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
it was awesome.
So here you're talking about a workflow that works best for your specific situation.
Yes, yeah. And it's this is a very and I say this for every single point. This is a very important point, but this is a very important
Mhm.
point. So here, my idea of a workflow of and I think Studio Steve was mentioning this at the beginning of the episode is like, okay, you've done your research, you prepare for to record this podcast episode, you have your guest right there with you. Maybe if you are podcasting on YouTube, you have your camera and then you have your microphone and you're ready to go. So something that I want you to think is every time you sit down to create a piece of content, just think about what other what are the ways that I can maximize this time so I can produce micro pieces of content,
Mhm.
or I can repurpose this thing that I'm doing right now so I can be on different platforms at the same time with this piece of content.
Mhm.
So, for example, when we sit down and we record our podcast like we're doing it here, then we are going live on YouTube.
Mhm.
Another thing that we've done is that we record our podcast episode while making a YouTube video.
Yep.
We have our script, we have an outline,
Mhm.
and we use the copy of that outline and we use it for our social media posts, for the
Mhm.
captions on our social media post. We
Eh,
use different apps and things that we do to get little clips from those videos to post on our social media.
yeah, sometimes we have a phone capturing a time lapse of us podcasting. You don't always have to be live while you're podcasting. A lot of times that can interrupt the natural flow of both.
Mhm.
So when we're live on YouTube right now, we stop periodically and answer questions. We started by answering questions and we're going to end it by answering some questions so we can still engage with people live,
Mhm.
but then also so that might be too complicated. So you don't have to do that. You can actually, like Veronica said, the majority of the work that goes into your podcast is the research, is the planning, is coming up with the topic, is doing any rehearsing or script writing or outlining. That's really the hard part. Once you've done that, then you can, if, and I love this example Veronica gives all the time to clients is, your podcast is an hour and a half long. You talk for an hour and a half,
Mm-hmm.
right? I want you to stop that and start talking for a half an hour. And then for the next half an hour, make a quick little shorts or for YouTube or a TikTok video, or for the next an hour to Instagram live or do a little video for IGTV. And then following half an hour, um, find another tip that you can do, to another repurposing idea. So you could do like a YouTube video, you could do a little video for social media, and then you can maybe do behind the scenes and actually go live to Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
There's all sorts of different things you can do to where you're already pumped up on the topic. You've already
Mm-hmm.
got your head full of the topic. And then the other part here with workflow, that's for solo podcasters, right? But then if you do interview podcasts, so you're interviewing a guest, then you could do the same thing with them. If you're going to have them on the call or at your studio or whatever for an hour or an hour and a half, split that time up and talk for 40 minutes with them about it and say, okay, that was great. Thank you so much. Now I'd like to shift gears. And that was the podcast portion. I was hoping that you would help me to make a YouTube video for the last 15 minutes we have together. On YouTube, I know that people are searching for this and this and this a lot, and you're a big time expert in that. So could you help that make sense to me? And then, whoa, you have a really cool YouTube video there that's not like this hour and a half conversation that you just had with all these little engines we're doing, but actually a concise, quick, really digestible, really helpful video for your YouTube audience.
Mm-hmm.
So it can take some time to get there. And, you don't need to be overwhelmed by all this. Just
You don't
start
need to do it
somewhere.
all.
You
Like
don't need to
I
do it
just like
all.
right now I just pull up my phone and we are on Instagram stories.
Hmm.
So something simple, just have that mindset of, okay, I'm
Hmm.
gonna squeeze this baby. I'm
I
gonna
love it.
squeeze
I don't know why, but squeeze baby. And then something
I'm gonna
about juicing it up.
squeeze juicing it up.
Yeah, you've had some kind of disturbing sayings this
Okay,
time.
should we do number 4?
Yeah, we got to do number 4 to finish off this
Mm-hmm.
episode. You want to take it?
Yeah, number 4, use tools to maximize your content repurposing.
Yes. And as Veronica mentioned, tools to maximize your content repurposing, we're talking about apps really.
Mm-hmm.
So we already mentioned the keyword tools that you could use, which would be TubeBuddy. Is a huge fan of TubeBuddy. And then also Keyword Surfer for that. And then make a nice spreadsheet, but also a great tool for turning your podcast episodes into little audiograms would be Headliner.
Mm-hmm.
And with Headliner, you can also get creative and use photographs and things, so it's more dynamic, more engaging. What I specifically like to do is do those little 15-second or 30-second
You
vertical.
have a tutorial, right?
Yeah, and we have a tutorial on our YouTube channel. You can find, we just put out that video a couple weeks ago that shows you how you can use Headliner, and Headliner lets you make 5 audiograms a month for free, and then after that they put their Headliner logo on it. We also so that's headliner.fm.
Mm-hmm.
Veronica likes Veed Video a
I
lot.
love video. I
What's
love
Veed
vid
Video?
video. So vid video is you can make little videos like Gary V
Mm-hmm.
style,
Yeah.
and that means that you can add caption, you can add font and titles, big titles to your videos, and those videos can you can adapt them to different formats.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if they're gonna go on your feed on Instagram, it has they have different dimensions, and so you can repurpose that one video, one clip from your video that you want to promote in your social media.
Mm-hmm.
You can reformat that video so it goes to Instagram or Facebook, your Facebook group, your
Mm-hmm.
Facebook page, or Instagram stories. We
Yeah.
post our little clips on Pinterest, and that it's for us really well. It's bringing a lot of people to our YouTube channel and to
Yeah.
our videos and to our podcast too.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned screen recordings. Screen
Mhm.
recordings are a great way for podcasters to get creative with making little shareable pieces of their content, because you can screen record your podcast player. You
Mhm.
can screen record your podcast playing on Apple Podcasts.
Mhm.
And then you can, animate that a little bit in video editors, or you could even put that video inside Headliner.
Mhm.
There's all sorts of crazy stuff you could do to get creative with coming up with a workflow specific for you that isn't going to take you. You can't spend 30 hours a week on your podcast unless it's your main gig. Most of us podcasters only have
Mm-hmm.
5 to 6 hours a week that we can spend on our podcast. So make that time really count.
Mm-hmm.
And don't just do the hour and a half episode of you talking to your buddy. Like,
Yeah.
take some time and make a dent with it, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah. Be strategic and be purposeful with what you do with your podcast. And also, um, pay attention to the platforms that are giving you the most return to your effort
Mm-hmm.
and to the time that you invest. If it's YouTube that is doing it for you, so make sure that you spend a lot of time creating content for YouTube
Mm-hmm.
or podcasting on YouTube.
Yeah.
If it's Instagram, just make sure that religiously you post every week on your Instagram, because that's where you're bringing your community together.
Yeah.
That's the platform that is working for you, and that's the platform where your audience is at.
Yeah.
So make sure that you don't have to be everywhere. Like if you're a solo podcaster, I would say just to focus on your podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and also one or two more other platforms. Don't overwhelm yourself with, oh, I have to be on Clubhouse. Like me, I just get this anxiety and then
That
this
we're not on
like this
Clubhouse, I
big
know.
FOMO
Uh-huh.
that we're not on Clubhouse. We'll be there soon,
We'll be there,
but
hopefully.
it's just the anxiety so much. We have so much going on. We're like in the middle of launching our next course,
Uh-huh.
and
Yep.
we're planning a lot of things.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So yeah, so
But
be patient with yourself.
be
Don't
patient with
overwhelm
yourself
yourself,
and
and
just evaluate your workflow.
workflow.
Take all it really takes is the two big takeaways, I think, out of
Mhm.
all of this, out of this episode, are one, before you press record on your podcast, take a breath and ask yourself, how can I get more out of this?
Mhm.
And then two is, oh man, I had a really good number two and I think I lost it. Um, ah, it happens,
It
you know?
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
So, well, there was number one, which was that. And then, oh man, it was a really good one. I'm sorry. I totally lost it.
Well, I would say like be purposeful, and when you're recording your podcast, how can I repurpose what I'm doing right now? How
Mm-hmm.
can maximize this time that I have in front of the microphone, in front of the camera?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And the other one is about goals and
Goals and
expectations. And
expectations. Yep.
don't worry yourself so thin and trying to be in everywhere
Yeah.
when you don't have to.
You don't have to. And then, I remembered it now. It's just
Came back.
take an inventory
La
of how
paloma
of,
regresó.
take inventory of how long you're spending doing everything.
Oh yeah.
Look at the clock. Just be okay, it's 2 o'clock. And then you don't have to like be crazy meticulous about it, but just know how long it takes you to record your podcast episodes, how long it's taking you to edit them. And then over time, look at that workflow and try to streamline it for
Yeah.
yourself.
And please, please, please get rid of the perfectionism.
Mm-hmm.
We've had ourselves so many debacles when it comes to going live,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to record our podcast episodes. We have so many freakouts when it comes to recording our YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Just get rid of the perfectionism
And just be patient with
be
yourself.
patient with yourself and start doing it.
And if you're uncomfortable, if it hurts, if it's painful, if you're freaking out, it means you're changing and you're growing and
You're growing,
you're getting
you're
better.
expanding.
So, and with that, we love you, Podskis, and
Yes.
I hope you enjoyed this episode.
Woohoo!
And this is something we might periodically pop onto YouTube and do this. So if you haven't had a,
What do you guys think?
what do you guys think? And
Should we keep doing it?
and with that, happy casting. And then what happens
Happy
is
casting.
our podcast editor will now incorporate the outro piece
Our
we've
auditor,
recorded.
our podcast auditor.
Our podcast auditor. So now what I'll do, I'll share this with you guys here on YouTube too, is,
and we have a few minutes.
and we have a couple minutes. Yep. Now this is Reaper, and look, Reaper has been recording the whole time, which is wonderful. So we've got a good hour recording there. These audio levels look pretty good. Maybe I could have pushed them a little heavier. So I could just press the space bar here and save these. And now these files are saved. I'll take Reaper out of record. And now this is good. I can just share these files with our podcast editor. And then if I was editing it myself, I would just have it already here in Reaper to start editing. And we're good to go. And hopefully we can answer a couple more questions here on YouTube before we go.
And if we don't get to your questions, like feel free to reach out to us.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be happy to answer all your questions. We
Yeah.
just happen to have a 2:00
Yeah,
appointment.
we're really happy to answer your questions. And what did you guys think here on YouTube? Do you like this? Is this something you'd like to see us do every
Mhm.
week when we record our podcast? We can get better at doing it, and like when we separate and things like that.
Mhm.
Um, it takes about 3 to 4 hours to edit an hour-long podcast. Yep, that's where I am too. Before we got our podcast editor, I was getting speedy fast to
Mhm.
where I could almost do hour per hour. I was doing that by using Descript. Descript is really cool. If you, and I'll leave a link for Descript in this video too, where you guys are watching. You might want to come check out those links. Again, we talked about TubeBuddy, Descript. Oh, and then I have that free online training for Reaper that you can check out, and I also have a Reaper for Podcasters course. And then right here, I love this right here.
Mm.
I want to teach Spanish. Can I start a podcast?
Sí,
Suggestions?
sí, por favor.
Yes, you absolutely can. Um, and and then also if you know English, you could do the reverse as well. And you could probably have a lot of success with teaching Spanish. And especially if you have, just like make your unique teaching style stand out, because
Mhm.
there are other podcasts doing this. Duolingo is a huge one. So you do have competitors there, but it's okay because we all have competitors in whatever niche we go into. It's just good to ask yourself, how can I stand out? What's unique about my teaching style with how I teach Spanish?
Mhm.
How am I going to make it fun? And how am I going to make it relatable? And who are you trying to teach Spanish to?
Mhm.
Is it adults? Is it kids? Is it women? Is it men? Ask all those questions. Really, figure out who it is you're trying to teach Spanish to, and that will
Mhm.
help you design your show better.
Yeah,
But that sounds really fun.
it does.
Uh-huh. And then I think Tyson also answered that for us. Thanks, Tyson.
Yes, you can. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
definitely.
And then right here,
Enjoy this a lot, and
angelic frequency, even if you're not sure what to do. Oh, and Morena, thank you, Morena. I wonder if this was from a previous question. I don't know
yeah.
if you're still here, Angelic. Maybe you could give us a little more context to that. Maybe you're just responding to other people in
Mhm.
here. Um,
We love to see all these
yeah,
people,
this is
all
so
of you
much fun.
guys.
I enjoyed this a lot as I am beginning and still breaking in my pod shoes. That's awesome. Yeah, well, they're super
We're
fun.
here to help.
We're here to help, and we're always open to comments. Like
Mhm.
Veronica said, we're pretty good between the two of us responding to the comments on our channel. You can also find us via email. You could do studiosteve@podsoundschool.com, or you can do veronica@podsoundschool.com. But we respond quicker actually on Instagram and Twitter. Veronica is usually on Instagram, and I'm on Twitter. Also, we have a really fun Facebook group too. If you guys haven't heard of or been over there yet, it's Podcasting for Bosses.
Mhm.
But you can get there by going to podsoundschool.com/community. And in our Facebook group, we do weekly pod audits usually, but now we're doing YouTube channel audits where we actually just, oh, and the meeting started already? Or is
Um,
it going to start soon?
it is going to start
Okay,
soon.
well, we got a couple minutes.
Mhm.
Cool, you guys. This was really fun. Um, and yeah, like Veronica said, just feel free to reach out with any other questions. And I think we might try to do this on a weekly basis, or at least what we might wind up doing is, like we said, is doing our podcast real quick on the topic right here. And then after we've done that, then just go live.
Mhm.
So the whole time we're just engaging and answering questions if you guys have questions.
Mhm.
But I've noticed sometimes it's better to do a little presentation a little bit. And I think that tip can work for a lot of podcasters, because if you do a little presentation, you talk a little bit about what you're going to talk about, then that causes questions.
Mhm.
People think about, oh yeah, well, what about this? And then, so it actually creates questions. But
Sweet.
oh, she got
Okay.
back. Cool. Hey guys, you two are amazing. Sorry, I meant 4 hours editing 1 hour podcast, even if you have never done it before. Oh yeah, even if you've never done it before, I get it. I would
Okay.
say 1 hour podcast, even if you've never done it before, might take even longer. It depends on what you mean by editing. If you want to cut out every single and if you want to add music, if you want to add an intro piece and an outro piece, the more production on your podcast, the longer it could take. But yeah, I'd say the first couple times around, plan for 6 or 8 hours, and it's worth that time. And then you get faster at it, and there's tools that you can use like Ripple Delete, which is really cool. All sorts of fun tools. And you just have to educate yourself too. Like, don't just sit around in a platform, whether it's Reaper or and don't use Audacity either. Reaper is way better than Audacity, or Pro Tools First or whatever. Uh, when you're in there, um, don't just sit around and like try to teach yourself when you have all these resources, because you could just watch a YouTube video, or you can find online trainings like the one I have, or you can find people who will help you and teach you some tricks and tips that'll get you save you so much time in the long run with your podcast. But with that, we
Okay.
have at 2 o'clock, and it's 2 o'clock, and we love you guys and
Great.
happy casting. Thanks for
Happy
tuning in,
casting.
and have a great rest of your week. And we'll talk soon.